future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Welcome to Both Sides Now, featuring the unconventional duo, Dr. Shirley and medium Kelly White.
Two perspectives, one world.
This is Both Sides Now.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Both Sides Now. I'm Dr. Shirley.
And I'm medium Kelly White.
And John, our wonderful producer, is here.
I'm here somewhere in the
We're in the big room today, so you get your own microphone.
I do. Yes, happy to be here with you, ladies.
Thank you. We're
Yes,
happy
and
to
with
be
our
here,
guest.
too. Oh, we have the most wonderful guest. But before we get there, you're going to tell us a little bit about the planets and the energy and what's going
I
on,
just
right?
wanted to mention a couple of things.
Please do and
I
get us
will.
prepped.
I'm going to get you prepped. First of all, we just had a very exciting solar eclipse yesterday. In fact, if you watch the Academy Awards, you know how exciting it
I
was.
was going to say,
I mean,
I
you
want to
know,
clarify
John,
what
right?
exciting exactly means because
Oh, my God.
Is that the kind of thing that this energy would bring?
Oh, you betcha.
Lordy.
Surprise, shock, and solar is out in public. Out. That couldn't have been
Really?
That's as far out as it gets. Academy Awards.
So it couldn't have been like a more perfect example of what this energy was.
completely,
Oh,
yeah.
my
Yeah.
God. That's
And
so interesting.
we have months of this. This will last for several months. I mean,
Wow.
this kind of energetic intensity will last. It goes until August 21st. And August 21st, we go into another full solar eclipse. And this one will be seen. I know, you know what a heck of a year this is. And this one will be seen in the United States. And what it means is that it will be actually dark in the middle of the day. It hasn't been that way in,
Intense.
I don't know, 50
Really?
years or 60 years or something. Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, we've got
this
that-
one ends
that-
a cycle of 2,500 years energy
Wow.
cycle. So that's how huge this one
Oh,
is.
it's huge.
You know, we always have these solar
Wow.
eclipses, these lunar eclipses,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But this is a really
This is-
significant
And so,
one.
Very
okay, so wait a minute.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. So just to backtrack a little bit. So things will happen. Shockers will happen in public.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
so
part of
we
it.
might hear something. So not that we're political on this show,
I know where you're going with that.
but
I
you know,
I was almost afraid to say
something
anything.
something might happen. I don't know. I'm not saying it, but you heard it here first from Kelly.
I don't know.
The shake-up.
The
We'll just say
shake-up.
the
The
shake-up.
shake-up.
But
Yeah.
it also shakes us up personally.
Oh, my
you know,
God,
our
yes.
individually, we will be shook up to our car. We'll be learning about ourselves.
Your practice is going to be ringing off the
Oh
hook,
my
let me just
God,
tell you.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, and additionally, we have Mars going retrograde from March 5th until April 15th, till tax day. So let me tell you basically what what Venus retrograde means. Venus
Oh, so
retrograde.
Venus
it's
or Mars?
I'm
Okay.
sorry, it's Venus retrograde.
Okay.
So in a Venus retrograde, if you are single or if you're it doesn't really matter because it could bring a fated relationship. So if you're married, it could end up in an affair, or if you know, it's a fated kind of a relationship during this period of time.
So what does fated mean?
Well, probably not good.
So fated, like kind of behind.
F-A-T-E-D?
F-A-T-E-D.
Fated.
Oh,
Fated.
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 Yes.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I mean, it doesn't mean it's probably karmic. You know, something you have
I
to
see what
work
you're saying.
out.
Okay.
Something you'll learn during this eclipse time. But the other thing I do want to mention about this Venus retrograde is for women out there, and I get, you know, I'm from LA. This is an LA. We broadcast from LA. Don't have plastic surgery, okay? During Venus retrograde. I would even say, and I have actresses that call all the time, and I'll say, you know what? Don't do Botox or anything during that period of time.
Oh,
Yeah,
then I have
yeah.
to get in before March 3rd.
That's correct.
Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. That's exactly what I'm saying. That would be like tomorrow or the next day. And
Okay.
then but
Well,
you know
thank
what?
you for letting
You're
us
welcome.
know.
I thought
Now,
I'd
is
let
that any
everybody know.
surgery or just kind of
Anything beautifying, anything that's going to
anything
beautify. So,
beautifying.
of course, if
Okay.
you need surgery, you're going to have surgery. But, you know, often this plastic surgery or Botox, that's something that you can.
Well, it's
you can
elective,
wait.
and that's
It's
why,
elective.
because you
Yeah.
mentioned plastic surgery and Botox, I wanted to, to differentiate between any kind of surgery or something that's more elective and kind of is more for our own
Elective
aesthetics
for
kind of thing.
aesthetics, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you
All
for
right.
letting us know.
You're welcome. All right. That's
Because
it.
Venus rules beauty.
It rules beauty.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did
Yes.
not know that.
Yeah.
I learn so much in this show.
There you
I really do. So I'd love to welcome our wonderful
You got
guest,
it.
Anthony Twig Wheeler. It goes by Twig. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Really, really happy to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. I met Twig because I've taken some of your courses, which are a lot of fun. You are a cultural animator, and I want you to describe what that is, and you're a somatic experiencing educator, which is, of course, what I talk about at nauseum here. And so you are an expert in our bodies, our nervous system, how that works, and we're going to get into a wonderful conversation about it. What's a cultural animator?
You know, that's an interesting idea to take a step back from being an expert to try to speak just a little bit more to the culture from the shared position of being part of the problem rather than just having all of the solution.
Oh, wow.
So that was a phrase that I picked up in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where I was working with a group of animators. They call themselves cultural animators or animators there. And the notion is that they are village people, local people who get inspired by this kind of social movement to bring better ideas for self-sufficiency into the communities. And rather than bringing in expert ideas from outside, they kind of just mobilize these cultural animators to go around to the communities and help facilitate questions to help people in the communities realize that somebody in their community already likely has an ideal or better solution than everybody else, so that rather than bringing in an expert idea from outside of the culture, they animate the culture to come up with their own local resources and local solutions.
Okay, how brilliant is that?
Yeah.
I mean, it really is, because it gets people working together, thinking outside of the box, and the solutions, I'm sure, are already there or waiting to kind of be nurtured from all of us. I think every culture
Yeah,
can
exactly.
do that.
Yeah, and in this case with the somatic education that I enjoyed doing here in the United States, we're just talking about how our biology, how our physicality, how our nervous system, how our body is kind of designed by nature already to support us. And those ideas don't have to necessarily come from outside interventions and medical procedures and devices and medicines, as much as we need to more or less learn how to pay attention to what our biology is already trying to do for us.
Right.
Like that
right.
more of the solution is actually already to be found in the way that our organism is already intelligent.
Well, and from what I've learned with somatic is that the body will tell you. And what I see in my practice many times is if we don't take the time to pay attention to what our body's communicating, the body will eventually get louder and louder, and all of a sudden we have a huge physical ailment that makes us stop, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So actually, that's a nice way to say my enjoyment as a cultural animator is to try to mobilize that curiosity, that question, just to say, hey, look, this information is inside of you and inside the people around you. If we turn toward paying attention to that, we could feel better without putting ourselves through so much turmoil.
Yeah, it's so true. And that's, one of the many just beautiful things about the somatic experiencing, practice is that the body, you rephrase things. Like so many people say, why do I feel bad about that still? Or why am I crying about this thing? And that's just the body communicating. So if we can have like this curiosity, I'm crying right now, what are my tears communicating to me? And we see it that way as opposed to what's wrong with me. It's just so beautiful, and then you can figure it out.
And find out that those feeling states change, that they are designed to change. They come up, they do their thing if they're not repressed or annoyed or avoided, but instead allowed to move through us. They are actually trying to produce something, a feeling state that once felt actually relieves itself, should conditions, be set up that we can move back to safety after some upset happens, in which case those feelings are meant to change.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't this interesting?
Yeah. I wanted to talk about what we talked about a little bit earlier about resting bitchy face. I thought it was so interesting. Before we all met today, we were talking about this, and I was...
Well, I think, it's a thing on YouTube. Can you bring it up, John? Just put the link on there so people... It went viral, and actually Stan Tatkin, who does the psychobiology of couples counseling, brought it up, and it was kind of as a joke, but it really is how our nervous system works. So share with us kind of what we were talking about as far as the nerves. You were telling, you were sharing with both of us the nerves of the face, and when we don't have a lot of movement, how's that perceived?
Yeah, we could say that our autonomic nervous system is separated into 3 distinct subsystems. It's true for all mammals, and it's definitely true for humans. And each of those 3 subsystems has distinct influence over particular parts of our bodies. One system goes to our arms and our legs and helps us to move around the world. Another system goes to our digestion, to our belly, helps us to eat things and digest things and eliminate things. And another subsystem, which we often call the social engagement system, that was the name given to it by the scientist who helped us understand all of this. His name is Stephen Porges, Porges, Stephen Porges. And this is from his polyvagal theory. And what he's helped us to understand is that the social engagement nervous system, which controls our face, it has a distinct influence over how more or less at ease our heart rate is.
So interesting.
And one of the things that come out of knowing this distinction, that part of our nervous system controls our face, that part of our nervous system controls our arms and our legs, other organs as well, but for sure a dominance over those arms and legs movement kind of patterns, as well as this influence over the belly of a third subsystem. By understanding that distinction, we can see, more or less with kind of remarkable accuracy, which subsystem is dominating a person's experience by the quality of tone or the countenance on their face, the amount of movement and flexibility in their face, the availability of emotional expression happens when the particular subsystem called the social engagement nervous system, the kind of uniquely mammalian element of the autonomic nervous system, when it is dominant, our face is just spontaneously social. We make nuanced movements with our eyebrows and muscles around the upper side of our face. Our voice will have a kind of rise and fall pattern to it that we call prosody. We'll be able to pick up the sound of the human voice easier inside of the environment. In fact, our head and neck will turn. Our head will be able to turn because the muscles that control our neck, that beautiful neck muscle we call the sternocleidomastoid muscle, that will kind of bob our head up and down when we're talking to somebody. We're just kind of like signaling like, oh yeah, we're like connecting. I get it, And it's like, and we hear a novel sound, we'll turn our head to look like, what was that? What was that sound? And that's all this social engagement nervous system working.
So we have to be relaxed enough to be able to have those things happening. So there's movement in our face, there's movement in our voice.
Exactly.
Right.
And as we get more stressed, as we become more dominated by what we could call the stress response, or a different part of the nervous system, maybe called the sympathetic nervous system, that one that kind of motivates fight and flight behavior.
Right.
As that system comes up, our face gets more stereotypical, meaning like we kind of like know what that face means. We put on like an angry face. We get mad, we get into a fight kind of mode, we get irritated, and the face kind of gets tight.
You can see it,
and you can see it, and you can see that across cultures.
When you say that person looks angry,
you
how
know
can
what
you tell?
they mean. Yeah,
right. Yeah.
And you put on like a fear face, like a flight face, a face that goes with the feeling of wanting to run away from something, and people can read that face.
And there's some people that you can actually see the picture and you see the white of their eyes, and that's fear. So they're kind of stuck in fear.
Yeah.
You know how there's some people,
Yeah, which is to say, like, that's not anything that they're doing intentionally.
Right.
That's like a function of the nervous system is currently reproducing the feeling that they need to be in a kind of flight kind of response to things.
Right.
And you can literally see the face kind of either have this flexibility of the social engagement system or fairly kind of discrete, specific gestures or expressions that go along with different survival emotions like fight and flight kind of behavior. And then that third subsystem, which controls our belly and digestion, that kind of turns down the tone in the body, meaning that we kind of go in, actually, when that system becomes dominant in danger, we go into the freeze immobility response, where we kind of just freeze and don't do anything. We try to wait and pass time until the danger passes. We try not to call any more attention to ourselves. We can't remember what we were thinking. We kind of dissociate.
Right.
And the face often goes rather flat, right? The
Can you
1,000-mile stare. I can imitate
Okay.
that. That's the 1,000-mile stare. It's like,
And there's very little movement, and that's the bitchy resting face
yeah.
because
yeah.
there's no right. There's no.
Yeah, no expressed affect or no spontaneity in the affect.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the emotions.
I have that.
Oh, dear
I
God.
do. But we were talking about it,
do.
before the show, and I wanted to,
She
know,
does,
'cause
John.
I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of Tuesday from Adam's Family. She has it
Oh,
all the
okay.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
I put it,
Well-
smiling gives you wrinkles, resting bitch face keeps you pretty.
keeps you pretty, but nobody approaches you. I was saying that in my 20s, I used to go to bars and nobody would approach me. And I'm like, why don't they approach me? And once I learned this, it's because there's no, I come from neglect, so there was not a lot of engagement. So your face as a little baby doesn't learn to move a lot. So you just kind of have this.
Now, so does that mean that the mother is not engaged? I mean,
The
how
mother
do-
doesn't engage too much with the baby.
Oh,
Like I remember my mother used to
sad.
watch kids, and her typical thing was to put the bottle with like a towel. So that's how 'cause she was. Listen, I know it wasn't intentional, and I've worked through all the emotions it brings up, but you don't engage, and so the baby's face isn't used to laughing and smiling, and so you're very flat.
Yeah, this is very much a use system. It's there, it's prepared by evolution for us to develop that early in life based on many tens of thousands of interactions with not only our primary caregiver, but others in the environment who are signaling their social engagement from their face, which stimulates us to use this same system. And it has a kind of impact on how this system grows and whether it's conditioned to be used again or not.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because we love it so much when we do like a face with a baby and the baby imitates it.
Precisely.
Right.
And that's a completely prepared process, what evolutionary biologists would call it prepared learning. Like you're more or less just instinctually ready to do that. And so you see parents do that with their children around the world, completely spontaneously across the world in every culture.
Right. Yeah.
And then what happens in a case where a baby doesn't respond that way? Maybe a baby is autistic.
Yeah, or even just ill could be, in
yes.
fact, but we could say that there's a range for sure. And anything that challenges the social engagement system to be able to express itself when you're in a dyad with somebody else, whenever like one person is expressing social engagement and the other person is essentially their face is expressing distress, it could be that active distress or it could just be that flat feeling, which is a biological signal of distress. When that kind of engages inside of a group of people, say a mother and a child, it can go either way. The mother is kind of got a flat affect or the child has a flat affect, and it can make the other person, without really even knowing why, feel a little at ease, like something's not right here. Like the timing and the back and forth gets off, and the feeling is like, and if that's allowed to grow, if the social engagement doesn't kind of make things feel better, but instead the kind of discord in the relationship grows instead, it can actually be pretty challenging for everybody. It's like, oh, my baby doesn't love me, or on the child side, oh, my mom isn't there for me, or she's too distressed or too
Right, or I've done something wrong.
something wrong.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
You know, and as adults, we were talking about how the other person's nervous system is going to interpret that without being aware of it as this person's dangerous, or this person, I don't want to approach this person.
Yeah,
you know?
that's the deep thing there.
So so hence I wasn't approached, and now after I learned this, I'm always thinking, okay, make sure that you relax your face, not necessarily smile. I'm not, walking around with this, but I make sure that I relax my face. Even just a moment ago when you were talking, I'm cognizant that the camera's on me, so usually my face would be as I'm listening to you, but I go, I try and relax it so it's more, because I want to be cognizant of that. I don't want to be perceived as, because that's not really who I am. I was trained that way. in
Yeah,
a way.
more or less. Yeah, and that.
You said you've seen it.
I've
Yeah.
seen it. It's
Yeah.
hysterical. I've seen the face. I know the face.
Yeah, that's right.
But I won't personalize it next time.
That's
Thank
nice.
you.
That's nice. Yeah, don't
I'm
take that
learning-
one on.
I won't. I'm learning all kinds of things.
Yeah, that's it. So when we see this in another person, our own nervous system is actively reading what's the relative safety or relative sense of danger in this environment. It's always doing that. And one of the big things that we read in the environment is other people's faces, which are naturally just expressing how safe or how ill at ease this person is in themselves based on how available this kind of free, spontaneous social engagement is of the face. So if you get into an environment where everybody's looking kind of stern, you start feeling like, oh gosh, this is a dangerous place. Like something dangerous must be going on here. And
Yeah.
if you're in a group with everybody smiling, you come into that and you like start smiling yourself because you
Yeah.
feel safer in that group, and therefore your own nervous system allows your face to function.
Yeah.
And when you see somebody, I did the same thing. I used to go sit at the bar and just sit there and drink tea and write and hope somebody was going to come talk to me and everything. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder they didn't come talk to me. Like, I look like I was just there inside a little cave inside myself, hiding.
Right. Yeah. And so I purposely then sometimes I approach people because I don't want to assume that they don't want to be approached. And then if I get the signal that they don't, then I don't continue. But because it's awful when you want to be approached and you're not, but you don't know how to look
Isn't it?
approachable.
Isn't it then?
You
Isn't
know?
it then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were going to talk to our listeners about, because being overstressed, everything doesn't have to come from trauma, but being stressed out, kind of chronically stressed out and not giving yourself enough time to decompress, you were going to give us some tools on what people can do to help decompress.
Yeah. Well, this face conversation we've had so far is a good place to pick up on that. You just said while we were in this interaction, you said that even though your kind of default is going to be to go to the, what are you calling it?
Resting bitch face.
The resting
And for
bitch
the male version is resting asshole face. And I do not want to offend anybody. That's just what they called it in this YouTube video that went viral and was very funny, but it really talked about nervous system. I mean, it really did.
It's really naming that from
Yeah.
like a very direct kind of way. So when you're in that and you're trying to avoid it and you're just trying to relax your jaw.
Yes.
That's what you just described, and you're also kind of giving a little bit of a nod. You are more or less directly influencing the muscles of your social engagement system when you're doing that. If you were to massage the muscles of your face or open and close your jaw, Peter Levine has a lovely thing, the founder of somatic experiencing, where he has people open and close their jaw like they're chewing on air, like a guppy fish chewing on air a little bit. So it's not to be like hard about it. It's to be rather soft about it. Really, all you're trying to do is get what they call the muscles of mastication. So that's like your masseter muscle and your pterygoid muscle, these muscles that open and close your mouth when you're eating. Trying to stimulate those because they're part of the social engagement nervous system. And if you can kind of give a little bit of free movement to those, then the part of your body, the social engagement nervous system, we'll give a technical term for it. Somebody out there wants to know. The technical term is called the ventral vagal complex, the VVC. And when that gets stimulated, like any muscles that are related to it get a little bit of use, it kind of lights up the whole system, which has this interesting influence over the pace of the heart and the kind of the rate of the transfer of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the lungs. So when you feel calm, you naturally feel your body at ease, and your head and neck and face is all able to move and express itself with spontaneity and ease. Now, suppose you're not feeling so at ease, and so what you feel is tension in your face or even numbness in your face. If you can somehow choose to decide, like, I'm going to influence this a little bit more positively for my own well-being here, you could move your head left and right a little bit gently. You could open and close your jaw. You could just nod your head a little bit, little rocking there. you could let your eyes move around. One of my teachers, my main mentor, actually, Stephen Hoskinson from the organic intelligence tradition, and comes out of somatic experiencing, and it's got his own thing now. He's really keen on just influencing encouraging people to let their eyes move freely about the space that they're in.
And land on whatever they're going to land on.
Yeah, there's something here that's a little bit more interesting to you than other things. It might not be the prettiest environment you've ever been in, but something's more interesting to look at than other things. Let your eyes kind of go to things that you want to look at. And as you do so, you actually encourage your eyes to kind of be free in your eye socket, and you encourage your head and your neck to move around, which then stimulates those muscles of the social engagement system and has this reverse influence over the pace of the heart.
Yeah.
So a lot of somatic experiencing practitioners in their therapy will start their sessions encouraging people to kind of look around the room that they're in a bunch with them, with the intention of stimulating the system so that their clients can kind of start their sessions from a better feeling place of not feeling so upset.
Right.
Just from kind of talking to the biology and saying, if you were at ease, you would be free to move these muscles.
Right.
So what if we go ahead and move some of these muscles and kind of almost trick your nervous system into thinking that you're more at ease.
You're more at ease, right.
And it turns out to reverse the signal and say, oh, now I feel a little bit more at ease.
Right.
And if we're in a chronic stress kind of state, it's terribly important to add that in periodically. I was doing it in traffic on the way here. I'm like, I'm getting nervous. Of course, I'm like, we're going to be talking. It's like, I'm going to do this well, So I'm getting a little nervous. I'm like at the stoplight looking around, like looking to the left. I'm looking to the right. I'm taking it in, and then I notice my breath get a little bit easier without telling my breath to get easier.
Right. It just happens spontaneously.
Which would be the ideal in this case, that subsystem, the social engagement system, is able to work a little bit. And enabled to work a little bit, it would have this influence over the body. And then you could feel, all right, it's just a little bit easier to breathe for a moment. And rather than just kind of going through the whole traffic thing more stressed, we could instead influence this little modulation that could just say to the system, it doesn't have to be the same tension all the time, which would just condition the system to feeling tense all the time.
Right. And then you're just used to it. That loop continues. That would be a wonderful exercise for people to do on their commute. In the morning on the way to work, so you can get to work especially if you're working in a high-intensity place, to feel a little bit more relaxed when you get there. That's not going to change if there's a stressor or the work is intense, but at least your nervous system starts here as opposed to getting to work starting there and then when you get home. And then you can probably be a lot more engaging with your kids and with your spouse if you've done this on the way home. And you all of a sudden get home here instead of here, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like the notion of being stressed all day long, like our bodies really aren't made for that, just to be really just direct, right? Like that's like what critter on this planet should be stressed all the time and think that they're going to be okay with that, So we need to increase some kind of modulation to tell the nervous system, oh, don't be stressed at pitched from the time you get up running until the time you're going to collapse at the end of the day. It's like there's got to be some rise and fall in here. Otherwise, you're going to wear yourself out.
And watching TV isn't the same thing. You may You may feel relaxed while you're watching TV, but please talk to us about that.
Well, that's a really central thing in this, that it's the spontaneous engagement with other people in a back and forth. Like right now, Kelly, you're like nodding your head to me, which gives me a certain kind of signal that says, oh, we're doing this together. And the more you do it, the more I get at ease and the easier it is for me to be okay being here, Watching a screen or taking my attention towards something that isn't interacting with me is much more of this kind of passive state that is more of a reproduction of that flat face.
Right, it's more dissociative, right? Because you can kind of,
That flat face.
And so, right, the resting
like
bitch face.
that.
Thank you.
It's called a flat face.
But it's more kind of zoning out.
Yeah.
Because what you're describing is something that we do very purposefully and very actively. I'm going to actively look around and move my head and move my face. That's a very active and conscious thing. Whereas watching TV, we may feel relaxed, but we're really just kind of zoning in and kind of dissociating. So we're kind of coming out of our stress, but we're not trying to work through the stress or reduce the stress, right?
It's a little bit like a pause on the state, right?
Yes,
Like
a pause.
it's like I feel I don't know. Okay, I feel like I need to check out. I appreciate needing to check out. So I'm going to just sit here for 2 hours,
I do it too, right?
check out. And at the end of that, like, okay, maybe I feel tired or, do I really feel that much different? Like easier to breathe? Do I have less body tension? Like, is it easier to feel like I have options for like what I might do with my choices that I have? Like, or did I just take a pause from the same worries?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can even do it while you're watching TV. I love to turn on candles, and so while I'm watching, I'll turn around and go, "Wow, that candle the glow looks so pretty," or I'll look around, and so you can kind of, if you're consciously doing those, you could still be watching TV and not just necessarily just dissociate into the TV, and then 2 hours later, I love how you said that. You put a pause, and 2 hours later, you may not notice it, but you're still as stressed out as before you watch TV.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
maybe just that much more tired, so now it's time to go to bed. But,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That little thing with the candles, it's like a good thing to set up little reminders this would be like orienting, to remind myself to look around. And one of the reminders that I use I have one of these little phones that a lot of us have now, and sometimes it's loading something and it creates this little wheel, the spinning wheel of death. It's like,
that wheel of, oh my God.
And I could sit there and like look at it and get stressed out about how long this page or whatever is taking to load. But I just take that as a signal to remind myself to look around.
That's a good.
That's a
good.
great idea.
Yeah. So whenever that little spinning wheel comes on, I just start orienting and telling myself a few things I can see. I look around the room I'm in or the space I'm at outside, just letting my eyes go free, letting my head and neck move. And every once in a while I come back and, is this finished yet? So that rather than being stressed waiting for this thing to finish, like I'm not going to make it go any faster.
Right.
by staring at it,
Yeah.
So, but I will give my nervous system a little bit of modulation in its sense of demand if my attention is a little bit more able to pick up, there's nothing here attacking me.
Right. So you kind of put yourself in the here and now and realize that's really nice. And when I started this practice, I would put Post-its. So if you're not going to remember, throw a Post-it and put it on your dashboard.
Exactly.
And look around. So now you're reminded to do it on your way to work and on your way home. And I think I'm gonna challenge people to do this for a month. On your way to work and on your way home. And if you don't work, if you're at home, maybe do it for if you take a walk. Do it on your walk.
Great
or
time.
even as you're cooking breakfast. Do it while you're cooking breakfast. Really get into the cracking of the eggs and the washing of the dishes and stuff. Do it for a month and notice if there's a difference in how you feel overall.
Really, what you're saying is be present in the moment.
Yeah, which allows you to realize it's not dangerous in this moment. And so you allow your nervous system to feel differently than how you would feel if you're kind of unconsciously going through your day.
Yeah. So in that way, when we say like being in the moment, that's a really nice way to say this. And we could maybe look for the distinction that we're looking to be in the moment where we're able to perceive the world around us rather than just be in the moment and kind of be inside our soul self.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right? Because part of what we're talking about here is that the nervous system has, at the level that this is really, truly important, it's that the nervous system is kind of accumulated stress in the sense that it's more or less not using this system as much. It's more in the fight-flight kind of behavior or in the freeze kind of behavior. And part of what then is happening is that there's an internal feeling I'm in some kind of danger still. So one of the things we can do to help, as Shirley was just pointing out, is help see the world around us while we're washing the dishes. And just by looking at the dish rack, looking out the window, looking at the door, and actually looking at those things, seeing the imperfections on the walls or the smudges in the windows, And rather than those just telling us what we have to do in order to clean everything, but like actually just being able to see the world, it helps the nervous system say, nothing's flying through the air at me right now. And that helps the nervous system kind of calm down a little bit. And that's an important way to be in the moment rather than just a meditative state of inside my thoughts and inside this present feeling state, which
because
could easily repeat itself.
Us avoidance can go inside real easy.
You got what I mean.
Yeah.
You got what I mean.
Actually, one of my therapist, SE therapist, she goes, I would try doing a lot of meditation. What you need is to engage with people more than going in. I remember I told one of my friends I did it. It was Thich Nhat Hanh. He did a day of mindful meditation where you're just not talking to anybody. And I said, it was just so powerful. And he goes, yeah, no shit. You go in all the time. You need to, right?
Oh,
I thought it was so
funny.
wonderful to not talk to any. It was silent meditation. We ate in silence. We walked in silence, and I thought, this is awesome. I feel so good. He goes, no, not for you. You need to engage.
So funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
It does talk to a certain kind of range. Like we have our predispositions, like we have our preferences.
Right.
And
right.
it's great. We want everybody to have their resources. I want mine. I have my own choices and preferences.
Right. It doesn't mean I'm going to change completely.
Right.
Yeah.
And you definitely want to like develop some range. So it's like
It's
I
the
don't go to the
range.
bar or the cafe or anywhere and just sit there just alone, missing out on the opportunity to actually feel better because there are other humans around who are safe.
Right.
Like you want to find those other people who are safe so the two of you can bounce your head back and forth, even talk about something relatively banal, but end up using your social engagement nervous system and end up feeling better at the end of a 3-minute conversation than you would have felt just sitting there in your own thoughts.
Right. I used to trick, and now as I'm thinking back, the flash, I used to trick myself, and I used to go to a bar or a dancing place by myself and pretend that I was waiting for my friend. So that would allow, I didn't know what I was doing then, but now I realize it would allow me to kind of start looking around. And so then I'd had people approach me because I was more out there looking to find my friend who was never going to show up because I wasn't meeting a friend. But then I'd meet somebody and it was fun.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Okay.
I think I've shared a lot about myself
There you
tonight.
go. There you go. That's what we do.
I wanted to. I wanted to actually. We forgot to announce at the beginning. We're still going to take calls, and if you have any questions for Twig, or of course for Kelly or myself, we're going to start taking calls. Why don't you pick a card out for us to start us off?
All right. I'm happy to do that. Power of Love cards.
These are cards that were designed, actually channeled, as he says, by James von Prague, a very well-known medium, and he developed these cards, and they're beautiful cards.
They're fabulous.
Yeah.
And I used them over the weekend. I do a lot of sessions on Saturdays, and I used them over the weekend, and it was fantastic.
Yeah?
I love these cards, James. Love, love, love. All right, so today, I think we should pick one for you and for the work that you do and the work that you two do.
I'm just going to take that in.
All right,
That's
take it
great.
in. All right, take
Okay.
that one.
Let's pick one for Twig.
Okay.
Oh, respect. Your value.
You value?
You value everyone's unique perspective on the path to love. And
very
that's
true.
you really do
Yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah.
You really do that. Yeah. Wow, that's a
Yay.
perfect one.
Perfect.
So
All
who do we
right.
have, John? Do we have
Do
people?
we have anybody with anxiety or depression or anything with a flat face? First thing I'm going to ask them when they're on the phone, do you have a flat face? I need to see a flat face.
And, well, first of all, they're asking if they can buy the cards, and they can. So I want to
Yes.
let people know they can go to
Absolutely.
James Van Prague's website. So it's
Yep.
vanprague.com, and you can click on cards and oracles, and you can get the Power of Love cards there.
Everybody should get them. They're fabulous.
Yeah,
All right.
they're really cool. Now the other side of the flat face though is the anxious, worried face, right?
What is the anxious, worried phase?
Twig will tell us.
Oh. Oh, dear.
I know. You
It's
know,
so
like all of
painful.
The
it's
oh dear
super
face.
painful. I mean, it's really that's accurate to say that. It's really
Yeah.
painful. It's like to spend so much energy tracking
know.
like is this a safe enough situation?
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It's a terrible way to live.
Terrible way to live and terrible way to be
Yes.
compelled to live based on feeling states that you're
Yes.
like kind of are out of your control. Yeah.
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 Well, it's the same way the nervous system's been trained to worry for whatever reason. It's the environment in childhood, but we can retrain it.
Yeah, I think that's the coolest thing that I know
Yeah.
is that while all of these disruptions are real and authentic and just should make us have that kind of empathy right away of being like, wow, that would be exhausting to feel that way all the time or some such. It's also true that the nervous system can be conditioned to repeat those feeling states, and it can also kind of, with appropriate care and attention, walk out of that into a much more regulated state where ease and well-being is not just an idea, although I can see how out there it seems like just an idea if you haven't really experienced it. But our biology really is designed to rest in an at-ease position until we're actively under threat. And I know a lot of people in their lives, they just kind of like experience threat as like that's the case. It's always a challenge, and I've got to get out there and hustle, or I'm going to get in trouble or whatnot. So there is just a lot of ambient challenge. And at the same time, this conditioning of the nervous system not giving people the opportunity to feel the relative ease that their lives might actually have.
Yeah.
And that can really, like you just said, Shirley, it can really be improved for people.
Yeah.
I am a case. I think I was hearing you say that you're a case. You would not have known me as the pro-social guy that you see today if we had talked 15 years ago. And in fact, you would have seen one of the more distressed people you would have recognized. And that's not anything to do with me per se, as much as like somebody guiding my nervous system through the transformation or the transitions that help it to do more or less what it's designed to do, which is to be a pro-social critter.
Yeah, to connect. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we're innately programmed to do. And that's part of what I love about your website is called Liberation is Possible, which I love that because it really is.
I think so.
It really is. That's your website, liberationispossible.org, and then you also have a Facebook.
Same thing. Facebook, Liberation is Possible.
Okay.
That's right.
So I urge people to go on it. There's so much wonderful information on your website. And for people who are therapists, you can sign up for a newsletter. And then for people who aren't therapists that just want information, they can also sign up on your website, right?
Yeah, so there's essentially two angles there. One is a direction toward therapists and practitioners. And that's actually where the majority of the information that's on my site is kind of directed so far. And it's always been my design to do more cultural animation, just talking to the general public.
Yeah.
And so that information is there, and there's projects that are kind of always in development that go in that direction as well. And this year, that's more of the turn of my focus, is more public projects.
Wonderful, wonderful. So do we have a call?
We do. In fact, I'm going to call. We have a lot of people that were in the chat room and on hold, and so they were trying to get through, and one in particular I'm going to give a call right now to. So I just asked her to clear her line. We're going to call her right now.
Okay.
So here it goes.
Wonderful.
All right. Go ahead and try it. It says her phone number is busy.
Okay, why don't we take someone who's been waiting, and then we can try her back?
There we go.
Or no, there we go. And what is her name? Do we know her name?
Her name is Diana.
Diana.
Hello.
Hi, Diana. Thank you for your patience. You're on the line with Shirley and Kelly and Twig.
Hi, Diana.
Oh, hello.
Hi, thank you for calling.
How can we help you tonight?
Well, I lost a son many years ago. His name was John, and I just lost a granddaughter that was 2 months and 18 days old.
2 months and 18 days old. Boy, that hits me really hard. Really?
Her name was Vivian Marie.
Oh, my God. Vivian Marie. Ooh. Was there a breathing problem with Vivian Marie?
Not as far as we knew, no.
Okay. I have some sort of a problem in the area, in the chest area. I'm sorry for your great loss.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for that. Also, did you lose your mother?
Yes, I
Yeah.
did lose my mom.
Yeah. So because I had your mom, that was the first thing that came to me. And your mother is with your grandson and your granddaughter. Your mother is with them. And she's telling me to make sure you understand that it was a very gentle passing for the granddaughter, a gentle passing, and that she was right there to grab her, literally right there to take her. Okay, and she's really around now. I can feel her very clearly at this point. I can feel her energy completely around right now. And who's Mark or with an M on the other side? Is there a Mark?
No.
I'm getting a Mark. Then is a Mark around you then? You're not getting
No.
you don't know a Mark? I don't know why I'm getting that
No.
name really clearly around you. All right. So I can as far as going forward in your life, this is going to take a lot of time. This kind of traumatic loss is going to take a lot of time. How are you, because we have an incredible person here that can help you with this kind of sadness and grief right now. Twig, do you have anything that you can say about when the loss of babies, the loss of grandchildren, the loss
Well,
of
and
this
her
woman
son, too.
and her son, yeah.
Beyond the challenge of it, I guess I was having this question of who's around with you these days,
It's a good question.
Diana. Like,
Who's around me?
yeah, in the sense of like, who are you getting to spend your time with? Are you getting to share in your feelings with other people in your life, or are you having to hold this more or less with yourself, or do you have other people that you're close with that the group of you are getting to?
Pretty much by myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that does make the extra challenge, doesn't it? Yeah.
And then I lost my son 18 years ago, and it was very traumatic to lose him too.
I bet.
They misdiagnosed what was wrong with him, and he passed away, and the doctors all covered it up and kept him alive for over 4 hours doing CPR so they could hide everything. So I couldn't sue them afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. That's extremely traumatic. And that's John, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So they are all together. And also I have another man who says he's your father on the other side that is with the whole family. This is a whole family that came in as a very loving family, and I'm getting a tremendous amount of love. And I'm also getting another man, like an uncle on the other side as well. You've lost a lot of members. This is a lot of loss here. So what I loved what Twig was saying, we've got to get you some help. I mean, you need to find somebody there because there's so much loss there. I want you to know they are all okay on the other side. They really are okay, Diana. They are okay. And I'm getting a certain smell too around, like I'm not sure if it's the perfume that you wear or the perfume your mother wears, or is there's some smell? Do you always smell a certain, like a rose smell?
My mother.
Okay, so she's around you. She wants you to make sure that, and I'm hearing the word lilac to be correct. That's what I'm hearing, but that they are around you. But we need to find you. You need to be able to support system because that's a tremendous amount of loss
and a burden to carry all by yourself.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Bobby was my brother. That's the uncle that's up there. He was 16 when he passed.
Golly.
Wow.
That's a lot to lose a lot like that in and who's the drummer? I'm hearing drums or drummer, drum.
My brother or my son John.
Okay. Still playing. He's still playing. They don't lose any of that. They just continue on the other side with music and anything that they were always into here. And I'm looking at somebody into fast cars too. It looks like John was into fast cars or likes to go fast.
Yes, John was into fast cars.
Yeah. And I'm also getting a friend of his that passed. Looks like with an S. Or something like, it looks like an S on the other side. That his friend, he has friends over there, Mom. He has friends over there.
Yes, he has lots of friends over there.
Yeah, so you don't need to worry. He says he's okay. Everybody's more concerned about you and the challenges that you've been facing. So we've got to help you get some sort of a support group. Have you been to any support groups?
Oh, I live in a small town, Clinton, Illinois. No, there isn't any groups here.
Is there a church or anything nearby?
I go to church in Decatur. But right now I don't have a vehicle that's running, so I can't get to
What
church.
about
So
online?
Oh yeah, what about online? Have you done anything online? Do you have a computer? Do you know how to use online or?
yeah, I've got a computer. That's how I found y'all tonight.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad you did.
Wonderful.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah. So I might suggest, do you have any suggestions, Twig, for computer? I mean, there's a lot of support groups that can be online, and you kind of have to research them a little bit.
Is there any message that Vivian is trying to give us? Because her mom is pregnant again.
Oh, I got chills on that one. Well, Vivian is going to be around you guys. Really, how much she loves her mother. Please make sure that the mother knows how much she loves the mother. It was just her time. It just was her time. Okay. That the new baby that's coming in, I believe it looks like a little girl to me too, and that she's going to be just fine. She's going to be just fine. Because I know the mother's going to worry. Girl. Yeah, because she's telling me that she's going to be stronger. She's going to be stronger. You know, the energy in this planet now is pretty intense.
They're talking about all my family.
Yeah, well, you had a lot of family. But the energy has been very intense. And so it was just Vivian. It was just her time. But the new baby that's coming will be healthy and strong, okay? Tell the mother not to worry. Yes, tell the mother not to worry. Okay? Please tell the mother.
And Brandy in the chat room is from
Yes, and my son. It was both of their first children.
Wow.
She was their first child, and my son will be 37 this year.
Wow.
John, what were you
I was just saying that Brandy is in Illinois as well. I don't know exactly where, but she's in the chat.
State.
Yeah, I know. But she's in the chat room right now, and maybe she can give some resources.
I was going to say,
state.
you know what we should do is somehow get the time to put together resources for people with loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In all the different states.
That would be a great idea. Yeah. Or maybe you can go on our Facebook page and put your information. And have and so then you can go on our Facebook page and we can start a resource page there and people can find each other there. I mean, I'm not sure how that would work, but the other side always helps with having things just work out. So maybe you can go on and give, I don't know, your email or something that's a little bit more public where people can connect with each other.
Or if other people in the chat room are listening to the show, if they know other groups that are online groups for people with loss. Yeah. Because I would love to work with that group. And we could come in and say hello to them. We could help them.
Absolutely.
Along the way.
Yeah.
So
Diana,
does
you've
Vivian
given us...
have a message for her father, Jake?
Tell Jake that he is a wonderful father. Okay, please tell him that. Tell him that he's wonderful. There's so much love on that other side. She's also with another grandmother. It must be his mother. There's another grandmother on the other side.
Another grandmother.
She's surrounded by literally love and angels and grandmothers and aunts. I mean, love, 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 love. She was a very loved baby, and she still is. Okay?
Yes.
Just know that. Okay?
Thank you so much for calling.
So much.
Best wishes, Diane.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
You're very welcome.
You. That's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
Families and babies and loss is always hard.
That's the thing, right? Like
Loss is hard.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to predict what the hardest emotion is, but grief is like right up there in the hardest thing that we go through.
It's the hardest thing, and then and yet
especially a baby.
A baby. Oh, I know. My daughter just had a baby, and I do know how difficult it has been and challenging, and I always wonder these souls. Again, it's a tough time out in this energy now.
I think looking for signs too.
Oh yeah, definitely looking for Diane. If you're still listening, definitely look for signs.
Because I remember before we even met years ago, I was working with a family and they had lost, altogether, I think it was like 6 of their kids.
Right.
And one time she told me she was looking out the window and up perched on one of the power lines were 6 little birds. And you can't, that's 6. That's a very specific number.
Yeah.
And so looking for those signs to help you kind of, calm a little bit the nervous system that we've been talking about so you can notice
that's
that variability.
That's the thing, is to get the the goods out of that, to get the value out of that. Suppose it's nothing, but you're thinking about your 6 losses and you see these 6 birds, and suppose it's just what we probably don't think of much here as coincidence, but suppose it's a coincidence, but it helps you to get a little moment of like, oh yeah, a little recognition of what I was thinking about, little recognition of how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
It's like, get the goods out of that. Take that in and just be like, wow, this is like touching me and giving me some kind of value. Like, give that credit and let yourself rest into like, oh, something here makes sense to me for a moment.
I'm glad that you're saying that, because I've always said that if people believe or don't believe, who gives a shit? Whether it's real or not real, who cares? But you can extract that value, that little moment.
And on the other side, they do give messages.
Yeah, I'm with that.
They give messages. Look out in nature, especially if you're in Clinton, Illinois. Look out in nature and look out at butterflies and all kinds of birds and all kinds of things.
Things that feel like a coincidence.
Yeah.
I don't believe in
There
coincidences.
is a grief recovery helpline that we just found, and they're talking about it in the chat room.
Oh, fabulous!
And
We love our chatters. They're so good.
No,
and it's
chatters. That's what we're going to call them.
1-800-445-4808, and hopefully that number still works, because you don't know how long things have been up on the internet.
You'll
But
put that up?
I put that in the chat room for people along with the link, and actually there's a bunch of hotline and phone numbers. Well, not just for grief, but for many other things. But Grief Recovery Helpline is on there.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good.
So let's take another call.
Alrighty. So we
little
have
bit
area
running out
code
of time,
610 on the line. Can we have your name, please, and where you're calling from?
Yes, hi. This is Donna Hendricks. I'm calling from Glenmore, Pennsylvania.
Hi, Donna. Thank you for
Donna.
calling.
How can we help
thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
Well, I have a question. I was wondering, how do you trust your instincts when you think you've been horribly manipulated for years and possibly drugged in your morning tea for a long time?
Ooh.
Oh, my God.
It's a crazy feeling of confusion, and you can't wrap your head around it. So I find different things, and I found some Percocets, and I think my husband may have a drug problem, but how do you trust your instinct? I can look at everybody else and say, oh my gosh, they're doing this wrong. You have to leave that person. They're completely blindsiding you. They're lying to you. But I cannot understand myself and see what has happened to me. A covert narcissist, a quiet person who is manipulating. How do you trust your instincts when everything is telling you there's a problem?
Is he still in your life?
He's my husband. He has Asperger's, so I think he's learned to communicate. He's a hint of Asperger's. We learned when we had our son and he was diagnosed. I recognized all the signs when I read about it, and he's learned, instead of communicating, he's learned to do things quietly. So he always seems to know where I am and what. He makes comments on Facebook to me about someone I've talked to. He'll say, he'll read a newspaper and say, oh, a certain name that I guess I was talking to on Facebook, an old friend. He, like gaslighting. I don't know if you understand what that is.
I started to say gaslighting, yeah.
We do understand gaslighting, yeah.
I've had to create so many things he's done that I would never do to anybody. But he's a sweet person. I just think he has learned to communicate in a different way. But how do I trust my instincts with all these things that he's doing? I don't have proof that he's putting a Valium or something to make me tired in my Turkey Hill tea. How do you trust your instincts? How do you follow I want to leave, but how do you know when to follow yourself?
You mean first of all, do you have children?
Yes, I have 4. 2 are older, they're grown, and I have 2 little ones. And he's a multi-millionaire. He's really, I'm not even sure how he made his money. I asked him if he won the lottery. I know he has worked very, very hard, and he's a numbers guy. He owns real estate. We met from a car accident. By the 3rd car accident, I sent him a thank you note and thanked him for the car, and he asked me out. And I thought, he's either weird or he's really nice. But
How long
I
have you
think-
been with
I
him?
think it's good. 16 years. We've been married for 9. But it's been the craziest relationship. I couldn't pinpoint what was wrong for a long time. Always telling me he's sick and he has this. Now computers and phones are giving him headaches. It's always something. Restless leg syndrome. It's caused by chicken, he tells me. From eating chicken. He's not eating chicken.
So was he
a friend of mine-
diagnosed Asperger's, or was he diagnosed with a personality disorder, or?
Well, when I read about, he was never diagnosed with Asperger's, but when I read about my son when he was diagnosed, he's the sweetest little boy. But when I read about the Asperger's, I realized that my husband had similar symptoms, and he couldn't talk to me for 3 days because I think he recognized those symptoms in himself. He's a very quiet. I thought he was just a shy guy and very sweet. I just think he learned different ways of controlling me.
Have you ever been in therapy?
Yes, I spoke with a psychologist, and he advised me to leave. He said he couldn't help him. I think that if he was in therapy, he would never admit to anything. I think he's ashamed. He could never admit to anything he's doing wrong. But I just, I see all this, but how do you trust yourself? How do you know
Well,
when something...
first, are you in therapy? That would be the. What do you think of that? I mean,
Most definitely. And I think if you're feeling something, then you need to
Something's
trust
going
that
on.
instinct
Yeah.
that something is going on.
Well, I feel like who would ever believe such a story? You know?
are you kidding?
Um,
As therapists, you should hear some of the stories.
Oh, yeah.
Please,
Yeah.
right? Right on. You can't even imagine what we listen to in a day.
Yeah.
And I would say that absolutely people are going to, a therapist is going to believe you if you're telling these stories, right, Cheryl?
Absolutely.
Well,
Gosh.
it's pretty hard for me to believe what I think. So
Well, the
I just-
therapist would
I just-
also help you kind of differentiate between what may be, for lack of a better word, paranoia coming from you or suspicion coming from you, and help you reality test on what is real and what's really happening, whether it's gaslighting or if he has, or if your husband has a little bit of paranoia and that's why he's watching you so closely and maybe trying to drug you so you don't go out to the store because you might be doing, who knows why he's doing what he's doing. But Twig, do you
Right.
have?
Well, I heard a few things in your kind of sharing. One was that you can tell when other people kind of like have their head on right and they can kind of pick up on things. But like you said, for yourself, you have a hard time doing that discernment for yourself. So that sounds like an ideal time to go get somebody else to help reference your experience with you.
Yeah.
Get some reality check from a therapist, from a mediator, somebody who can listen to your story over enough time that the two of you can kind of call out some of what you have experienced and say, how much of this is your perception? How much of this is completely accurate? How much of this has become an accumulated worry? And I would really be encouraging you, particularly if your husband is a multimillionaire, then I hope that there's enough funds for you to have control to go find somebody to talk with and kind of get a little reality testing going.
Yeah.
Well, he controls all the funds, so it's difficult for me to. I don't have access to the account.
Yeah, I can see how that
I
could
just-
be an issue. That could be an issue. So,
I did.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if you could get a feel for me if I should move on or should I stay. I don't think anybody's going to be able to help me with this. I just don't think anybody can help me with this. I think I have to try to figure this out myself and then make a decision. But if I could just have a little sign of what I should do, if I should move along. I've been doing this for so long. I feel like I'm supposed to be here to help him through all this, but I am so drained that I have days now where I feel like I just don't want to be here anymore.
Donna,
It's
what's
so
your birth date?
exhausting. My head is spinning.
What's your birth date?
It's 5/18/1969.
So how old are you exactly?
I'm 47.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, let's see here.
I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here in my life. Am I supposed to be here helping my husband who has Asperger's, my son who has it? Am I supposed to be tolerating what's happening?
There's really no supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
There's really no supposed to be. It's following what your heart is telling you to do.
I mean, again,
It's telling me so many different things that I am confused.
well, again, I would go back. I would get the money, and I would go to a therapist.
You have to go to someone to help you,
somebody that
even
can
if it's
help-
someone
yeah.
to help you strategize on how to get out. Because
Yeah.
if he's doing something, if he's actually drugging you
Right.
in your coffee, then he's someone that's not going to be easy to leave.
Right.
And
Well, I don't have proof of that. If I just had proof of it, like actually saw him doing it. I mean, I went to the state police to see if they could help me. It's too difficult. If I could just see the proof, I
Well-
wish I could believe myself.
take some of the tea and have it analyzed. I mean, ultimately, take it to a lab and have it analyzed, but you're going to need someone, or I would suggest that you find someone that would help you strategize too, because you're so
Okay.
in it. It's just like you
Right.
said, you can tell what other people are doing, and most of us can, but when we're in it, that's why therapy doesn't work with friends or with family members, because we're too emotionally involved. When we're in it, we can't see as clearly. So even if you don't think you need help for someone to help reality check, you're going to need some help for someone to help you kind of strategize on how to leave in a way as unscathed as possible
As
for you
safe-
and your
as
kids,
safe
as safe as
as
possible.
possible.
Yes. So at the very least, I would suggest that you find someone for that. But if you're really worried about the morning tea, I would take a sample and get it analyzed. So at least
bet.
I tried.
Oh, you did. Okay.
I tried. I went to the state police. My gynecologist, she believes me. She said she's heard it before, and we all have the same reaction when we think we've had something in our tea.
Take
The
it to a
state police
private
could-
lab. Don't take it to the
I
state
tried.
police. A private lab won't do it?
Well, you have to have a like the lab up the road, like LabQuest. You have to have I guess kind of a prescription or like from a doctor.
There-
The
there-
police told me to go to like a CVS and get
There are
a drug
companies.
test from there.
I'm certain that there are companies, private companies, that can analyze it just for people without having a prescription or without running it through insurance or anything. So
Yeah.
I would
Here's
look
the
that
other
up.
thing. I don't think he's doing it anymore, but it's just so confusing. Do you get a feel that I should just move on in this relationship? Just move on? Did you get a feel?
You sound as anxious as anybody I've ever heard, through a situation like
It's
this.
scary.
I bet it is scary. Again,
has
my recommendation is that you go and find somebody in a private sector that you can talk to. At least it will get you grounded and get you clear about what you need to do, because it does sound like it can be it sounds like an intense situation. Just by your voice, it sounds intense.
Yeah.
And if he is a sociopath, which I do not know, but if he is, then you got to leave. But you have to do it smart. You have to be very smart
Yeah.
about it,
If you're
especially if you have
I
two
keep
young
trying.
kids. Well, and I know, honey, believe me, I do know this one very well.
yeah.
You have to be very smart about it, and
Yeah. And
you need somebody to help you through it, though.
if you're feeling something, then there may be something there. And many times when we're working with someone who has a personality disorder, the feeling is it me or is this really happening? When you have that feeling,
Well, I
which
hear
it
him-
sounds like what you're feeling, then you may be dealing with someone with a personality disorder, and that creates a very toxic environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think
it's
you're
hard
right.
to-
I hear
it's-
him read.
Yeah, it's difficult when you're married to a personality disorder. It's very difficult just to leave like a normal person. You're going to leave. It doesn't necessarily work that way.
Yeah.
Right, it's difficult. You get used to the situation, and I think if you grew up with somebody in the house who had that situation, you also you've already experienced that earlier in your
familiar.
life. You didn't even realize it, but
Yeah.
I wish I could be a speaker to kids in high school and teach them about psychology and what kind of personality disorders, sexual abuse, and all kinds of things to learn about, so people don't get through all these crazy relationships.
I
I don't
know.
think people are educated.
There are many
They're
books
not.
out there. In fact, we had a guest. She was from Australia, and she wrote a book, Dangerous
Yes.
Liaisons, and that was a book about being with someone.
You might want to look at. That's a great idea.
Yeah,
great
who's a
book
sociopath.
Too. And
Okay.
John, can you put that up on our?
Yeah, and sometimes Asperger's people are kind of, they don't know how to connect and socialize. So it could be
That's
that
right.
that what you may be feeling is your needs aren't being met. And that's not
Well, I
something that's...
realize that. Yep.
Yeah, it's not done purposely. They don't really have the capacity. Maybe you can help a little bit, Twig, with that. It's kind of a brain issue, right?
Yeah, I guess the way I would have heard that is to say, and I don't know this man, of course, so it's that we all have like a kind of a range of more or less availability in our kind of interactions with one another. And as we move down a spectrum that we have less and less availability, we feel more odd with those people. Like the interaction is different than what we expect, is like an easy rhythm back and forth. If you're with somebody who is less social, you can feel like...
Right, the volley isn't going to go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I understand all of that. I think I understand more about himself than he does. He doesn't read. But the only thing I'm concerned about is if someone went a little too far and you're putting diazepam in my tea for a long time. I don't think he's doing it anymore, but that's the only part. I just cannot wrap my head around it.
Have you been tested? Did you test your blood so you can see if you had anything in your system?
I went to my doctor. It was an embarrassing day because they were a new doctor, and it wasn't in my system, I guess, from the night before or whatever. But it came back negative. I don't think it was the right time, but I can't keep. I'm not getting it in my tea anymore. I don't believe.
Okay.
But I mean, I think I'm so paranoid at this point now because I know something has happened. I mean, every time I would be on my bed for hours, just feeling really tired, and I always had this feeling coming over me that, I don't want to be here. I'm too tired to even be here. I think I have a chronic fatigue problem anyway, but I'm treated with a medication for that, and it was counteracting it. It wasn't even working anymore. So that was, I figured out a number of things.
Well, and sometimes
but
being in a toxic environment can zap your energy, and so you feel very tired as well. But I think the resonating suggestion here is to really get someone to help you through this, whether it's a therapist that you can help reality check or someone that can help you if you're deciding to leave him, to help you do it in a strategic way.
Yeah,
so
strategic.
Yeah, so you can feel safe with you and your kids. Yeah. But thank you so much for calling.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping me. I appreciate you so much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
You
Good
too.
night.
Good night.
It's a rough one.
That is a rough one. Yeah, when you don't know kind of what's real and what's not.
The reality testing, like being alone in a dangerous or unsettled situation, is very disorienting. It's like, am I reading this accurately? Right. And that's why it's good to figure out people that you can trust to bounce things off of, and together work on what are we actually seeing here together, rather than just get caught in your own worries and preoccupations.
If it's gaslighting. I mean, that's really.
And someone who isn't emotionally attached, like a friend, might have more of a a tendency to want to agree with you. And if you come from, as you all know, Twig, that you teach us this, when you come from trauma, you may be perceiving something, you may be perceiving danger that isn't really there, because it does affect our perception.
Yeah.
Right?
Donna was actually just really naming that from the inside experience of just when you had this in your youth, it can be very hard to see it for what it is later in life, because it's more or less the water that you've been swimming in,
Exactly.
It's the environment that you anticipate. So it feels that it makes sense because it's what you know.
Right.
And yet it can be crazy making. And if we could get out of that, we would find out that there is a whole nother world where people are authentic and genuine, and when they give you tea, you don't get worried about whether or not you should be drinking it or not.
Right. Yeah.
And if that is coming more from your own worry, hopefully you can find some kind of contact with other people who can help you to enjoy that tea without worrying about it if it's not actually dangerous.
Yeah. Thank you. So we have run out of time. Do we have any maybe easy questions from the chat room? I hate to say goodbye to everyone tonight without feeling
Anybody like a card? Anybody that's been waiting? Yeah, those are two heavy ones, huh?
Yeah. Well, let's pick out a card anyways.
All right.
Okay.
All right. John, is there anybody in our chat room?
Well, let's do it for guest 29. I think they're inquiring about Casey. We never got to them. I guess they were on hold for 2 hours.
So sorry. Who is Casey? Am I getting a card for Casey?
Well, they're asking about Casey. It just says just wanted to know about Casey. I don't even have the person's name.
Casey,
unfortunately.
the husband or his son that passed over?
Possibly. They're just saying just wanted to know about Casey, and I'm trying to pull up the information. There's nothing coming in yet.
Oh,
so.
great. I got cause and effect. You are aware that the love you create in your thoughts is an agent of change and the foundation of your results. And that's
actually quite appropriate for the call we just had, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow. All righty. Well,
so are we going to talk about Casey?
Well, I was just waiting to see for the person in the chat room to respond. They were on Facebook, and they came over into the chat room to get the message to you. So,
okay.
Yeah. So it is his son.
the son. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, it looks like he's. Let me just get connected here with him. Boy, I'm getting a loneliness. I mean, obviously you would be aching for your son. I understand that, but I'm getting a real deep sense of that he was lonely even when he crossed over. So I'm not sure how that passing was, but I'm getting a deep sense of loss and a deep sense that he is definitely trying to connect with you, with the mother. Very deep sense that he's trying to connect with you, and I'm getting that. I'm getting the smell of parties around him, and I don't know what that means. So I'm not sure if that's how old he was, but was he a teenager? Is that about correct?
I'm asking.
Okay.
It's on a delay.
It's on a delay. Okay. Because I'm getting.
Do you have a message from him?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah. Thank you. He's safe, Mom. I'm safe. I'm watching over you, Mom. You don't have to worry. I've reconnected on the other side with the grandmother. He's connected with grandmother, and he's doing well over there. You don't need to worry about that. And I'm getting some sort of an accident, so I'm not sure if he had an accident, but he loves you. I'm going to leave you with that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. We will be here live next week taking your calls. Mm-hmm. So sorry if we didn't get to you tonight, but send us a message on Facebook.
And I think next week we're going to talk about crystals.
That's right.
Right, John?
That's
crystals
right.
and angels.
Crystals and angels, too.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo. I actually won't be here, but you and John will.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
The moon.
And so we will see everyone next week. Thank you so much,
so
Twig,
much,
for coming.
Twig.
It's been a real pleasure. Lovely to see you all here
Thank
doing
you.
your thing.
Wonderful information.
Absolutely. Be well, everybody.
And thank you for listening, everyone. And we will see you next week.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now, featuring the